Welcome to the Improve Our podcast. Here you'll find conversations and practical advice that will help you develop your team leadership skills, improve employee motivation and performance, improve work relationships and communication, along with other areas related to people management. If you are an entrepreneur with a team, a business owner planning to have one, or a team leader in a company, this podcast is for you. I'm Daniela Tancău, an HR consultant and founder of Improve Work. For over 20 years, I've been in the HR field, continuously learning and gaining experience across its various areas. On this podcast, I support those in team leadership roles, whether they are business owners or CEOs, in finding practical solutions to the challenges they encounter with their teams. You may be facing some of these challenges too. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to stay updated on new episodes. Let's dive into today's topic. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Improve Work podcast. I hope the conversations you listen to here are helpful in your business and in your role as a team leader. This episode's guest is Shawn-Marc Melo, the founder and CEO of Deep Identity, a tech company that provides services such as identity and document verification, background checks, identification of fakes in photos and live calls, and many other types of verifications. And you can hear Shawn sharing more details about his business at the end of this episode. So, in this episode, we talked about the challenges he faces in creating open flow communication between his teams and departments. And we started this conversation with a specific situation he encountered involving miscommunication between two specific teams within his company. And then we discussed how to resolve communication issues between departments in general and what solutions he and his team members can adopt. And even though we discuss some specific situations, many of the solutions and insights might be useful for your business as well. So think about how communication works between your own teams and departments, whether you encountered similar challenges, and whether you can apply some of the advice shared in your own company. Let's get started. Welcome to the podcast, Shawn. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we'll start by describing the challenge that you mentioned that you want to discuss in this episode. So you told me that there was some miscommunication between the two departments from your company. And you also say that there was some miscommunication and are some miscommunication between different departments within your company, right?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things especially in startups, is as you grow and your team goes from the first two to potentially a couple additional hires up to, that spot of 20 to 30 people,
Mm-hmm.
you start to develop departments. People have different responsibilities. And I think one of the toughest challenges is you started the company with such a small group. Communication was very tight and tight knit. And now that initial tight group probably holds various roles, be it the founder, one of the founders being executive in my case, or one of the founders being a CTO or operations, you end up hiring people underneath them. And what happens is that short knit communication that used to exist in the beginning starts to become like a broken telephone. I kind of find myself being the person that everybody brings the issues to, from different departments. And so what happens is the design team will be working on something and they're being, watched by operations. But then the development team is also working on something and they're being handled by the CTO. There's no communication. There's no inter-meetings happening. Everything kind of just runs with all the engineers meet with the CTO. All of the design team meets with operations. Everybody in the security team meets with the CISO. So you kind of miss how to connect those two together. or those different departments together. And that's kind of been, yeah, it's been one of our biggest struggles that we want to solve, that we want to get better at, and that we're hoping that you can help us with.
I hope so too. So let's discuss the specific case you mentioned about having a project where two teams were implied, the engineering team and the design team. And the
Mhm.
engineering team had to redo the work because they didn't know the deadline, and they also didn't follow the design standards that was supposed to be given to them from the design department.
Yes. So there was miscommunication on the feature. So essentially, we were scheduled to launch a feature that I designed up and drafted, and we'd had meetings about it. The engineering team started working on it, and the design team was working on a lot of the promotional material behind it.
Mhm, mhm,
Uh, the design team ended up putting features that the engineering team had decided weren't going to ship in this particular version, but they hadn't communicated that to the design team. So the design team had this whole messaging ready to send out. Engineering team had a product that only met half of those expectations. And then to add to it further, the sales team, which works directly underneath me, they had kind of misjointed information from both, because I had said, okay, well, the engineering teams changed and the design team and some of the sales team were referring to the what the design team had created and being like, oh, there's so much more. And that's how we actually
mhm,
discovered it, was the sales team was getting ready to get on calls, get outbound going, and we couldn't do anything because we weren't really sure what was happening.
mhm,
uh, so one project that everybody agreed was something ended up turning into this split mechanism between three departments.
mhm. As I see the situation, I think that what was missing here was a person to coordinate all the project, all the departments and team members involved, and also to communicate the communication between these all the parties involved. If you can call it a project manager, you can call it whatever you want, but this person should be the head, the responsible person to coordinate and manage this project. It doesn't need to be a permanent project manager. It can be assigned just for that particular project, a particular project to manage all the responsibilities and those involved. And what this person role would be is to plan in advance all the activities that need to be done inside the project, and also involve all the people that will work on the project in this planning. Because, for example, in this case, the team leader of the engineering team and the leader of the design team could have been involved in planning uh, the steps of this project. And I say this because they know the people they have, they know the time they have available. They know what other projects they are working on, and they can say what time it will take them to solve specific task within that project. And I think that this is a first step that should be done before starting the work in itself. Do you think that you can do this for a project, a future project? Do you think that it will be helpful?
Yeah, I think definitely having a project manager is something, a dedicated one at least, something you
Yes.
probably reach at a certain scale up. I think then the problem mainly becomes like, who do you pick? Because early on, you're really hiring people departmentally,
Mhm.
specifically assigned to their talent level, right? So when we are looking at engineers, we're hiring engineers. We're looking at sales, we're hiring sales. So there's not really a utility knife. Like, there are a couple, so I think it works. The idea makes sense, and it's actually worth testing. And I would follow back up with you on how it worked out. Um, it's more so delegating between multiple. Well, delegation is a skill in itself, but delegating between multiple branches might be too much to ask. I don't know, but I can try it. I think I have someone in mind that'd be great um, to do that with.
So this person should have a higher authority. So it has an impact on he or she has an impact on the other team members, on those people who are involved, and also had the skills and knowledge and also the willingness to do this. Because if they don't want to do this, they will not get involved. So you have to find someone who like this kind of activity, and to organize people, to communicate and coordinate the communication. So all the communication on that project should take into consideration this person. This person should know at any time what are the status of any task and of any activities in that project. This person should also have the ability to intervene and provide help in case there are issues, and also to communicate to the other teams that are involved things that affect their work, the work that a specific department needs to make in that project. And maybe your chief technological officer may could have this role.
Yeah, I mean, it. And most of the times he does do a pretty like large scope role, and so do I, right? Like I'm also there. It's just sometimes it's hard because you're doing just a whole bunch of different things in the
Mhm.
beginning in each role. That for some projects we can't really allocate the time. But you know what? I am gonna try it. I do have someone in mind that I think could be a great use case test for what you've just proposed,
Mhm.
and we'll give him a shot and then
Mhm.
see
Mhm.
what happens with it. Can do a
And
follow up on it.
yes, yes. And also, do your employees work on site or are they working remotely?
It's a mix. So the office in Canada and in Lagos are both in person,
Mhm.
hybrid. United States is mainly remote, but we do have an office there too. I mean, we're kind of global in a way, so there is a lot of remote, but there is coordination in office sometimes.
Mhm.
It's just not all the time. A lot of it is spent in stand-ups and virtual, just because of the scope of needing talent from various different places.
Mhm. Mhm. So there is a lot of written communication, I assume, on different projects.
Yeah, lots of tickets, lots and
Mhm.
lots of tickets.
So in this case, the project manager and all the people who are involved could be taken into consideration in different messages, different emails to be copied, to be at CC. And this is an important detail. It might be seen insignificant, but if a person knows receive or not an email, could be a critical thing. I don't know
And it
if
could be
you I don't know
no,
if you
sorry.
have this do you have this practice to include all the time in CC the people who are impacted by that information?
So I do.
Hmm.
Some of the other guys don't. And that's
Ask
something
them to
they've got to work on.
ask
Yeah,
them to
I'm
do
gonna have
that.
to enforce that. Yeah, I think that for the most part, I CC everybody because I'm usually the center point of communication,
Hmm.
which I'm trying to slowly dilute that a little bit. Definitely, they need to work on that though. Absolutely, and that's a good point. Even a blind copy is great just for visibility.
Yes, yes, yes. And for them to know that if they are included in that email, they should pay attention to that information, not to disregard it, even if they are at CC and the mail is not directly toward them. They should pay attention to that information.
I agree. I
Hmm.
agree. And you know what? I think that that's a policy we'll probably start today. It's still quite early. So I can send out a blast this morning and say, Danielle has told us this is the new way to do things.
Yes, yes, yes. It's a small thing, but it's very important. And about the second part of miscommunication between departments, different departments, I can say that there could be two solutions at least. In the cases where there are frequent collaborations between departments, you can introduce work procedures, work rules, and it's better that these rules to be written either in emails or either in specific documents, depending how important they are. If they are longer procedures, longer steps in those collaborations, maybe it's better to write them down in a document. If it's just a rule, respond to these kinds of emails in 24 hours, you can just send an email and inform everyone that these kinds of emails needs to be treated in this way, responded in this time.
Yeah, and just kind of give deadlines on them. I think too, you know, a funny kind of fact is there's like a little bit of there's uh there's a difference in how things are done. I know people always like to play on like the Gen X, millennial, Gen Z thing. I honestly, I'm a millennial, so I've been able to experience just like, you know, the communication level sometimes in Gen Z. So we're trying to incorporate that as well into it because it's short form communication is always best, is what I'm noticing for some of the
Mhm.
younger staff, where like check-ins aren't really normal. Where coming from corporate role previously, like check-ins and due dates were very normal.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, I think those are some things that we can definitely look at and continue to add on.
Mhm. And I think that the leaders of each department should supervise and make sure that these rules of collaborations between different departments are respected once they are established. And depending on the rule, you can include also the leader of those departments in creating those rules. So they agree with those rules and they can apply it. If it's a simple rule, maybe you don't need to involve them or they don't need to meet and discuss. But if there is a complex collaboration process, maybe they need to be involved in creating that procedure and rules. So they already agree with that procedure and they are more willing to apply it and also to convince their team members why they should follow that procedure.
And I think that that's good. I think maybe the delivery of it, and hopefully the entire staff can like listen to this episode and
I
really kind
hope
of take in.
so.
That'd be good. I mean, because sometimes that's another thing. Sometimes I feel like it's you hear something and it never really gets acted upon sometimes.
Mhm.
Um, so it'd be good. I'll replay this. I'll insert you into our next staff meeting and say, there we go. This is what we're gonna
I'm
do.
I'm open to questions if they have questions.
And I'm sure there'll be plenty. Because it's new territory, right? We're hiring at a pretty rapid pace. And expansion's always like this in the startup world, and I don't think it's really
Mhm.
talked about enough because there's a massive difference between how you start and how you finish, and they tend to be different than standard companies. Like a typical, corporation, or let's just use like a small business. They can be a small mom and pop shop type business. They might take years to get 10, 20 employees scaling up in that way. In technology, you could raise $20 million round and overnight you're hiring, 15, 16, 17,
Mhm.
25 people. And so it's not really discussed enough just how challenging that is.
Yes.
Um, I think that people tend to be like, oh, well, the talent part and finding the talent is the hard part. But there's so many tools nowadays for finding the right talent. we've come a long way in terms of being able to identify and being able to, weed out people you don't really want to work for you. The part is we don't talk about is what does the company look like at 50, at 100?
Mhm,
How
mhm.
does the communication look like? How do things change? Because your strategies are going to be perfect for us today, but then what do we do when we're at 75? Um,
Um,
you know,
yes. A funny thing is that as you grow and you have more employees, you need to introduce more rules, more systems, more procedures. That's why I mentioned that you need to work on those collaboration ways, methods between departments. And the second piece about this, if there are collaborations that are not frequent but are occasionally, those collaborations needs to be mediated by manager of those departments. So in the case that you have financial department and marketing department, you should be the person who coordinates the communication between those departments in that specific situation. And this could mean just the fact that you request something from those departments. So you inform both. You don't just communicate with the leader of one department and with the other don't. So you have to involve both in that communication. Because what happens if a member of a department goes and asks another department member something? Um, so, for example, a member of the from the marketing department goes to ask some information from the engineering team.
mhm.
That member of from the engineering team may be hesitant to provide that information because he doesn't know if that is okay. He needs to have the approval of his direct manager, of the leader of the engineering team. So the communication doesn't go from a team member to a team member, or if it does, the team leader of the engineering team should be informed, should be in CC, or it goes directly to the team leader and the team leader inform the team members, the team member. So it's always the team leaders of those departments needs to be informed about what a member requests from another member from another department, because this is an authority issue. If I'm in a department and I receive a request, I need to know that my manager is okay with me doing or working on that task that was requested from someone outside my department.
Okay, that makes sense. And these are all things that that we can actually put into practice immediately. So this is good.
I'm
This is really
I'm
good.
glad that it's helpful, and
Yeah,
I
I mean, we need consultations like these. I think that they're vital. Um, Oftentimes, we don't seek counsel enough in these areas. We're always looking to seek counsel from people who've raised funds or people who've, exited businesses. And I think oftentimes you need to just speak with people who are professionals at working in a situation of managing people. And this is really sound advice,
I'm
Daniela.
I- I'm glad. I'm glad that it's helpful, and I'm expecting questions, follow-ups, so I can
Oh,
help in
there'll be
if
plenty.
you have. Okay, so please tell us more about your business, how you started your business, and what people do you serve, what services and products do you provide?
Yeah, so we're in the verification and compliance space. Not a very attractive subject unless you need it. Then all of a sudden, it's the most attractive thing you can find. We are fully and wholeheartedly focused on risk and compliance for companies who are working with, different regulators and different authorities that require identity verification or background checks or anything like that. The services all range in between. There's, some modern things like deepfake detection, and there's old school stuff like running credit checks or, validating that someone's ID actually matches who they say they are. And how this kind of formed out was, many years ago, I'd kind of had um, an idea of what the future would look like beyond the basic stuff that we just talked about now. I was thinking, well, what this was in the early infancy of AI, by the way. It was like, well, what does identity look like for AI? Because AI is not simply a tool. I think it's become a term that feels like a noun at this point. So many people constantly referring to it, but I don't see it as a tool. I think it's going to continue to evolve to a level that it becomes not only a part of society, but becomes another species among us. AI doesn't stop in a chat window or on your computer screen or inside your favorite appliances. The next logical step is physical form and having those AI interact and respond, just like we've seen in those old sci-fi movies, inside of humanoid, you know, um, human looking physiques. And that's what got me really on the path of what does that future look like? How do we create a scenario where we identify that, where we verify that? And from there, other things were built out along the way. What I just referred to is super, not super far, but it's a decent ways away. So we've built what's available for today with a focus on the research and engineering behind, the distant and somewhat near future. And when it comes to, you know, why we chose this particular area, because it was something that not many people would want to pursue in a startup environment. It's a very slow moving sales and product pipeline in comparison to some other ideas. It's mainly because it's just so fascinating when you get down to the science behind how even your simple ID card is created, how it responds to various signals or the security features behind it. When you get into that, it becomes really, really fascinating. And companies like Idemia and Clear, they've done just such a great job of advancing the technology that we have today. And reading even just some of their papers is brilliant stuff. You really read through it and you're like, this is not just a simple thing. There's so much that goes into it. There's so much detail. There's so much work and effort that goes into creating these identities, these digital identities, to verifying them, to identifying fraud, to, detecting deepfakes. Like there's just so much work
Hmm.
that goes into it. And that's why we chose this. It was an interesting field to be in for us.
It
Um,
is.
and yeah,
Hmm. Hmm. And can you give an example how you helped a client?
yeah, there's a few. I mean, it depends on what industry you're from. And I mean, in HR, what we call people tech as well, we're really dealing with the newest threat that's out there, which is deepfakes. A lot of people don't think it's as big a problem as it is. But even if you read some of well, not recent news articles on the NKIT workers, where there was people from sanctioned countries creating completely, you know, original identities, passing all the tests to get hired at these companies while working in sanctioned countries, right?
Hmm.
Um, so it's a much more sophisticated game than it was, say, 10, 15 years ago. So really the tools we're providing to HR today are just that initial onboarding guarantee that you're hiring the right person, that they have the right education, that there's nothing
Mm-hmm.
fabricated or nothing that's dangerous about them. Standard times would say you would hire someone, you do a background check, you do a criminal check, and
Mm-hmm.
if it all passes, you hire them. I think the standards have got to get better and better over time, because what's going to happen is that you might actually inadvertently be hiring an agent. Somebody on their laptop has created a local agent that has an identity, that has a
A
face, that can
photo.
talk, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're hiring this person, you're having conversations that feel human, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to start to see that. And that feels weird to even say or think about. And people might think, "No, there's no way." There's a very, very, very strong possibility that that does happen, because it is happening today. It's just not
Mm-hmm.
happening
Mm-hmm.
at scale,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Um, yeah. So that's how we really delve into HR.
I think that it's a very important check to do when you hire someone. And I think it's very helpful. And I know that it's not only in HR that you provide services. There are many other fields and
Yeah, of course.
verification that your company provides, and who are very helpful in for other fields also.
Yeah. It ranges. Wherever you have a compliance need, really, we're there. It could be banks, it could be online casinos, it could be educational institutions.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's very diverse, it's very broad. Compliance is changing at such a rapid pace, country to country, continent to continent. I know in Europe, it's things feel like they're always changing every year, especially because we have to make a lot of changes every year to even do business in Europe. So it it's a dynamic thing. It's growing, and we're there along with a bunch of other wonderful companies in our industry, just to help and to make things better for companies that need it.
Hmm. How can people learn more about your company, and how can they reach you if they want to learn more about it?
Yeah, so I think our website's a great resource. We designed it to answer any questions that people might have at deepidv.com. Otherwise, I'm always available on LinkedIn to reach out to directly, and by email as well. Just hello@deepidv.com.
Mhm. Thank you very much, Sean. I'll put all the links in the show notes, and people can get in touch with you. Thank you very much.
And we have a follow-up. We must have a
Yes,
follow-up.
we'll do.
You know,
We'll do a follow up for
I'm gonna
sure.
do this today, by the way. I'm going into this meeting. It's 8:38 in the morning, Pacific Standard. I'm going to get into this meeting and start with our first step, which is blind copying and CCing. I'm going to report back to you. And if I need to involve you, I will send you a Google Meets invite.
Great, great. Thank you. Thank you
Thank you very
for
much,
this
Daniel.
episode.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you found value in this podcast, one way to support us is by subscribing. For more tools and insights to enhance your leadership skills and your employees' motivation, visit my website at improvework.ro. There you'll find a variety of online programs and courses. You can also book a free consulting sessions or a discovery call with me. I love to connect and support you on your leadership journey. See you in the next episode.